If I believe there's a reason for this pain I'm going through, if I believe that leaving me was all that you could do, if I believe that I can feel you by my side, I'll make it through the night. If I believe that time will teach me how to find my way, if I believe that broken hearts grow stronger every day, if I believe that now you're dancing across the sky, I just might get by. If I believe that memories won't always hurt this much, if I believe that I will see your face again, I can wait till then. If I believe I'll hold you in my arms again, I can wait. I know that I can wait. I can wait till then. I can wait till then.
Good evening, Somerville. Welcome to the Somerville Overcoming Addiction Show. My name is Joanne. And before I get to introduce my guest, I just wanted to talk about the next 6 weeks. We're going to be doing a series with residents from Somerville and talking about their addictions, or if they were, they're coming in as siblings to talk about their story, because I think it's very important that Somerville knows that we do have a lot of people here that are in recovery and that do want to get help for others. So tonight's guest is Paul Craven. Thank you for coming, Paul.
Very happy to be here. Thank you.
So the one thing I want to do is ask you, I hear that you were in recovery for about 35 years?
31 years now.
31,
Yep.
Well, that's remarkable,
Yep.
And I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
All
Thank you
right,
very much.
and would you like to tell your story about where it started?
Sure. It all started in Somerville, of course.
Of course, yeah.
And I'll start where I probably, a few things where my behavior and addiction started for a little bit, and then I'll go into recovery stage. It's all pretty much happened on the streets of Somerville. And how I grew up family-wise, pretty much really, to me, really didn't have anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Small percentage probably, but I think everyone has that percentage that they have, mixing how they grew up in the family and how they grew up with relatives and cousins and environment. But I focus on the actual, behaviors and who you hang around with, and where you hang around, and basically it comes down to me, self-esteem,
Right.
as far as out there, So knowing how I grew up with, 4 siblings, including me, they were all taller, bigger, and than me. I'm the shortest and the smallest out of the family.
Really?
Yeah.
He's very tall. How tall are
6'10",
you?
6'8", 6'6", and then there's me.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
See? You could
Yeah.
eat off the top of my head. I'm
So there
5'3".
was a lot of basketball going on, and when there wasn't basketball going on, there was a little bit of arguing, a little bit of fighting, a little bit of, as far as going at each other as brothers. And I had one sister, Maureen, who was in the middle of it all. Poor her, but we know she talks about that and talks about that's how she's tough as nails right now, as she goes now.
I was
She
the
knows.
only daughter.
Oh yeah,
I had 2 brothers.
Yep.
But no, I understand.
yeah,
And every family, not one family that I know is perfect.
right.
We're all
right.
dysfunctional in one way or another.
Yeah, so there's probably about a 10-year difference from the older brother to me. So there's a lot of people in Somerville in between, and knowing that my uncle was an alderman in the city as well. And between basketball, schools, and playing basketball in all different leagues in Somerville, and my father being in the Boston Fire Department and my mother working at the Lower Sisters of the Poor for 25 years, he just knew a lot of people from there. So so pretty much at the bottom of the bowl was me after all that, So, and it's not justification, it's just looking back on it all and saying, hey, I'm from a big family, everyone knows my brother Brian, Ronnie, Maureen, and play basketball, and so I was called the little brother all the time. I'm like, no, I'm 6'4", and back then I wasn't, but close enough. Saying, no, I'm Paul, So all that had to do with, knowing my self-identity and knowing, who and how I was going to present myself to different atmospheres and different people and different situations. So, one day, I probably went down to the park and all the time there was drinking going on, all the time there was this, the bad stuff going on.
Right.
I remember myself, and I'm sure my brother, remembers saying, no, I don't want to do anything to do with alcohol. I don't want anything to do with drugs. I don't want it. Then all of a sudden that one day, excuse me, it happened, as far as up there. I took my first drink right down here in Conway Park, and then right down Somerville Ave is where we used to hang, play basketball, drink, and then, as far as up there for a few years, and then all of a sudden, the drugs came into play, however they did, and pretty much stuck right over there,
Can I ask you a question? Do you think that alcohol is the gateway to drugs?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Today, not necessarily. I think the pods and
The vaping?
the vaping, definitely. There's a new gateway to drugs, if you ask me, and that's vaping. 'Cause
I worked up at the high school.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of the kids, there were a few kids, because marijuana smells so bad now,
Yeah.
that even if you had this small little, what do they call it? Bud.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if they have a small bud on them, they could stop them, and they would stop them.
Right.
And now they've learned to vape.
Yeah.
And you can put marijuana in the vaping
Yeah, you
tools.
can put anything now. I mean, the chemicals.
So that's what we need more. I want to see more parent education, so that they know whether or not. Like I want to have hidden in plain sight. Have you ever heard of those?
Yeah.
Okay. I would love to have that. And what it is a mock bedroom.
Yeah, right.
And parents can come in and look. And they give you like a printout sheet so that, look around and see, where there might be some drugs hidden.
Right, right,
And do you see these certain things around your house, like pens without a pen, without
right.
the ink,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or little pieces of plastic that are cut that were knotted,
Yep,
you know?
yep.
So your spoons have disappeared.
Right. All the red lights.
Right. So the thing is, you really should be aware of what's going on with your
Yep.
children. I know that they have their privacy and whatever, but you know what? If you have any indication that I would just want to go in and check and make sure that my child was safe, you can't say that it won't happen to me or not my child, not my school, not my city. You really have to look into, the possibility that it could be happening, and you don't want to lose anyone, whether
Right.
it's a child or it could be your father, your mother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle,
Right.
but whatever, just make sure that they're safe and they're using properly.
Yep, yep.
Because there's too much fentanyl and fentanyl
Oh,
out
yeah.
there.
It's crazy.
And I'll let you
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, a little bit to that. Doesn't, the drugs, the alcohol, all that stuff, it never would and never will discriminate.
Mhm,
as far as the
absolutely
thing,
not.
I mean.
Billionaires have lost their children.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And, yeah, so as far as with that, with the group of kids, between Charlestown, Somerville, and South Boston, and again, all in the groups that we had back then, I was just led to the path where I never thought I would be, as far as out there. And I remember, using marijuana, and I remember drinking, and I really didn't like alcohol that much. But then again, you did stuff to make it not like that, didn't taste so bad, so you mixed this with that, and vodka with cranberry juice, and, different alcohol content with other juices and stuff to make it
Tastes better.
taste better. And once that happened, just ran off with everything. But then it escalated as far as out there. And can remember knowing the older guys and the older people, doing some pills. And, back then it was tea and bladder acid and mescaline. And then even further, I remember thinking, oh, those guys, they're doing coke. Oh, my God. That's crazy. Never, never. And a few years later, bingo. Right there in the saddle, going down that road again, not thinking and not knowing, and just felt good, made myself feel better. And I knew my self-esteem back then was distraught. That's where it all was at, That's why I look at the kids today, it still keep to the basics of why things are happening,
Right.
And even though it's a different drug market out there now, it all comes down to me, self-esteem and people, what they're doing, and who they're hanging, what they have for activities, what's going on. So, and I'm sure there's more activities today than there was back then. But still, when I got caught up in all that, you found ways to know and ways to do it when we thought no one was looking. When you said, I was doing my homework, or I'm going over this person's house to do a project, or I'm going to basketball practice. Hey, he hasn't been here 3 practices. Stuff like that, you know what I mean? So a lot in the early days, that's what was happening there, the lying, cheating on,
Right.
as far as on your own life, never mind. Thought you were cheating everybody else, and you thought you were just cheating on your own,
Right.
taking away things that you didn't even realize, because I've always said this to people, especially during my talks and interventions. If someone was doing the same thing to you that alcohol and drugs were doing to you as a person, you'd be beating the crap right out of them.
So how long have you been working in intervention?
It's really not like when I started or where I began. It's just when the need. A lot more people know. In the past 15 years that I've been 31 years now.
Yeah.
So I was out there and I put myself out there a few times on social media, and of course, people know in general. I don't hide or anything like that. I hid enough for a long time before all that, to have myself know exactly what I want to do and how I want to do it and who I truly am, So,
Can I ask you a question?
sure.
Were the only one that had the problem at home?
No,
Yeah.
no. My brother and I went through rehab. I was up there. He went before me, then I went afterwards. And I went right up the Beach Hill at Dublin, New Hampshire. That's where I went. Found out that Carol Burnett went there. I found out that Jackie Gleason went there. So, well, I'll go there. You know?
It's funny because my uncle
Yeah.
used to be his interior decorator.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when I hear about the old, Jackie Gleason, Martha
Yeah.
Ray, and everything else, I think of my uncle, but he
Yep.
passed on.
Yep.
He used to be with them, like their friends. She used to be Martha Ray's escort.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
But it's all a lot of the. I'm so happy right now.
Yep.
Maybe not as happy as I would like to be, but there's a lot of recovery centers now that are coming up
Right, right.
in Massachusetts. So a lot of people don't have to go to other states.
Right, right, right.
You know,
right.
some people have sent their kids to California,
Right.
down to Florida,
New York.
and then, and if they cause a problem, they throw them out in the street.
Yeah.
And the thing is, so you could be up here and your child is down there, and you
Yep.
don't know where they are because they've been told to leave.
Right.
And if they don't have a cell phone or any way to get to you or have any money, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Like my friend, I told you that in the beginning when we were watching the roll through, she lost 3 sons.
Wow.
And the last one was found on the beach down in Florida because someone had brokered him and was getting the money, but he was out in the streets.
Wow.
And he ended up dying at a young age of like 23.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So now at least we have Banyan Treatment Center here. We have Column Health, which is right in Davis Square.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Outpatient.
Yep.
As you see, they were on the show as well.
Heritage do.
Yeah. And right now, even Cambridge Health Alliance has a great program.
Yeah. They
They've
really come
changed a
alive.
lot of the ways that they handle addiction.
Yep.
They have recovery coaches and working there as well.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of what they've accomplished.
Yeah,
I'd
they've
like to
really
see
accomplished.
better, because I've told them, I said, you're not going to see someone go to their primary care physician and say, I am an addict, I need help. You're
Right.
going to find them in the emergency rooms. And all I say to them is, please, yes, some of these kids or some of these people, because there is even elderly that are addicted, you're going to get them in your recovery rooms, and you might get them 4 or 5, 6, 7 times, but
Right.
we have to help them find a way
Right.
to get their recovery.
Yep.
And they don't need to be put in a corner or mistreated. So I
Right.
just say take classes on how to deal with people,
Education.
education, and,
Awareness and education is huge.
treat them with dignity.
Yep.
Because a lot of times they just need a hug.
Yep.
They need to know that they're
people
loved
too.
too.
Yep.
Because they feel their own. I don't know how you felt, but didn't you feel ashamed of what you were doing at
Oh, yeah.
one point?
Absolutely.
So of course you didn't go to anyone, so you had your own stigma.
Yep.
So you don't need anybody else's.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And I'm proud to say that Paul's going to be in a show on Chronicle
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in May sometime. So when it does come close, I want you to tell me so that we can broadcast it here and let people know what time and what day. So
Absolutely.
yeah, they'll be able to watch you.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. Can't wait for that. That'll be good. That'll be a different spiel.
Yeah, it would be.
Yep.
So please continue with your story, and I'm
Yes.
sorry.
No,
I
no, no
interrupted.
worries, no worries. It's all good. Yeah, so between all that, and then during all that time doing escalating into the drugs, and I'm sure, and I don't know when I knew, but I knew my behavior and my attitude and my body and all that stuff was changing. Because here I was being, I'm not going to say Peter Brady of the family, but didn't want any part of it at one time. All of a sudden I wanted to hang with the craziest people in Charlestown, Somerville, Boston, and, as far as looking up at them, knowing what they do, how they do it, and gotten to the point where I wanted to be everybody else except for me. I wanted to walk like you, I wanted to talk like you, I wanted to eat like, I just wanted anything to do with everybody else except being me, you know. And I remember that 110%. And when I realized that, I think the seed, you know, crept in on knowing that I wanted to get out and do what I needed to do, you know. But I remember leaving certain places and just going to the Esplanade down at the docks on my bike, leaving by myself and sitting and watching everybody else. You know, I remember those, drinking and then, doing drugs. But when I went out on my own through the months and through the years, I tried to do it on my own, was dwindling down. And I used to go to those places and remember where I was and what I wanted, what I thought of, and how I wanted to do things, you know. In other words, what I mean by how I wanted to do things is to get myself out of where I was. But if there's one thing I know I was doing now, but I had no clue back then, I was working with my own information. And back then, my own information stunk, you know. So,
I have a friend that went into recovery, and they asked him there what his plan was when he got out.
Yeah.
And his famous sentence was, "My plan got me here. You want me to figure out what I'm going to do?"
Exactly, yeah.
No.
Yep.
And I said, well, and you know, he is a social worker.
Right.
And he worked for RCA.
Yeah.
And he owned his own business called Wicked Sober. So, you know, he had to do it on his own, just like you. He had to get to a point, even though it's hard for a lot of people because of their self-esteem and also, you know, within, if you have the power to take it by the horns and you know, it is a terrible thing because everybody struggles every day once they become sober or in recovery.
Yep. Yep. So when I know I wanted to change, like I said, I used to go in and look at everybody else, and I remember looking, you know, see if I can get a normal life, a normal consistency, organization or something, a routine. You know, I used to write things down all the time. As simple as, you know, can I buy a car, or can I clean my room today, or can I whatever, you know, whatever the situation that I wanted to accomplish was. And I know all the time, at the end of the week, I used to look at it and it would all be circled, no, 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 and all because of alcohol and drugs. And that's when I was trying to climb myself out of it myself. And then, you know, close relationships, you know, back then were short and all that, you know. And I remember, you know, sitting wherever I was, just looking at other women, people I wanted to, you know, somehow be with, and just thinking that everybody else is better as far as out there, you know what I mean? And no, but I did know at some point, you know, during that time that I wanted to do what I heard other people have done in AA, because I knew some people in South Boston who were in recovery. And they started coming towards me a little bit. They saw the side of me coming out a little bit of...
12 steps help a lot of people.
Right.
And they do use them in a lot of recovery homes.
Yep.
And
conversations were starting to get different for me, you know, and I asked for help from some of the people who I was with, as far as out there. But I just knew that I woke up one morning. This is how it all happened. And it was a miracle to me. I woke up one morning, I was supposed to be in work, and I wasn't even in the state that I was supposed to be working in. And I put my hands in my pocket, and I pulled out this piece of lint, and I felt like that piece of lint. Piece of lint is pretty bad. You know, it's dusty, it's gross, it's dirty. You know, it's nothing, not worth much. So, so I remember that thought exactly the way I just told you. This was back in April, because I had 5.5 months before, and then I went back out, so that's why my recovery date is October. So, and then that night, of course, with the help of my family, friends, and my father being in the Boston Fire Department, had me up in Dublin, New Hampshire, as far as up there, you know. So when I got up there, you know, I pretty much knew that I wanted to be done, you know. But I had a lot of situations that happened, you know, me being sick, you know, and just not wanting to live, you know, before all that, and you know, just didn't think I could do much at all if I did get sober. And of course, now we know now that's the recipe of what the drugs and alcohol do to your brain. You know, I think a lot today with the kids, anxiety and depression, and that people are on the doctor side and the medication, they're quick to give them too fast. You know, and they don't get the TLC that these kids need as well. You know. But I got that. My point of me telling you that is that I got that without the medications, without the, you know, diagnosis of like a 2-hour conversation with somebody who doesn't even know me. It took more time back then to know what was going on with me and what I wanted and why I wanted it and what my outlook, short-term goal was, and my you know, long-term goals was as well. So I stayed in there for 33 days. I didn't do the 30 days because it was 32 or 33 days, because I remember me getting out on a Friday night. I didn't want to get out on a Friday night, you know, because I was just like...
Everybody was out for the weekend.
Yeah, just, you know, too much of a thought process there, you know, as far as getting out. So I was able to stay until Monday. So I came home that Monday, and I remember leaving, and I remember a few people I was good friends with, and they didn't have a place to go, you know.
After that, yeah.
After, and I had no idea about that, because, again, we all take things for granted, thinking everybody else has shoes on, everyone thinks they have, you know, we have waters in front of us here, a roof over our head, a meal coming this tomorrow. I mean, some people as we speak right now hasn't eaten for days. So those were those people who I was good friends with, and other people who had what I had, and there was other people who had a lot more as far as that there. But I knew that talking to those people who didn't have much, it wasn't about material. I think that's when it all started for me. About getting what I call now a grateful heart, you know, as far as that there. And how I do that is, how I did it back then was talking and helping people, you know, and it's helping myself, of course, like I said.
So you were kind of like other people's sponsors.
Yeah, yeah.
You would help them when they had weak moments to...
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I would always resort back to how I felt, you know, as far as that. I would always put myself in their position of how I felt before, and how they were no different than me, because they eat the same,
Right.
go to the bathroom the same. When they go into a house, they get a roof, got bathrooms, they have a kitchen, a lot of it. You know, what's in your kitchen, how you present it, and how you converse, that's a different thing. But overall, we're the same. That's how I look at it. I used to look at different
people
ethics.
are equal, too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have that mentality that
Yeah,
I'm no better than you, you're no better than I am.
Yeah.
We're all equal to each other, and
right.
we're here to help each other.
Yeah, and before, you know, I jump ahead too much. Before that, there were situations, you know, even though self-esteem and the drugs, whatever, you know, you'd cover that up, and you'd go with the groups. You make fun of other people and other groups and other ethnics, diversity and, religions and, or, as far as, the Italians or Greek people and all that stuff and the race, all that stuff. Growing up in an Irish Catholic home, you heard it all, you have seen it all, as far as that there, you know what I mean? So I knew that had to change as well, 'cause it was pretty crazy as far as back in the day, as they say. And it did, it has, by the grace of God, I always tell people, not for a bad thing or a good thing, whatever, but I'm not a full, whatever that is, a holy roller, as far as going to church every Sunday, but I do know, as far as where I was and where I am and how things could have been, that it wasn't my doing, as far as that there, as far as what happened and what could have happened. Everything that happened, everything that I've been through, knowing what I wanted before I got sober and how I thought when I was on drugs, I wouldn't be here. That's for sure. I'll just tell you this. I woke up one time out of a few, and I tried to take my own life, and how I did it, how how it happened, it's irrelevant. But all I know is that I woke up, and the fact of the matter is I was pissed that I didn't do it. I was pissed. I said, "Damn it! I can't believe that this. I have to go through this now. I have to figure it out again." And and then everybody around me. Some people knew and some people didn't, but 99% of people didn't. And I just was always on my mind of how I was going to do it and how situations.
A lot of people have taken their lives.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because they don't think that they're going to be able to survive their addiction.
Yep. Absolutely.
And to worry about the next pill or injection or whatever they had to do.
Yep.
I mean, that became a life, they had to do that daily.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a daily chore. And that daily chore was, for me, it was...
Because a lot of people don't understand the amount of pain that your body is in when you're not.
Right.
And when you're coming off of those drugs.
Yep.
And how my son would say, I could, I had him sectioned, but I had him sectioned because he asked me to section him.
Oh, really?
So I went down to the courthouse and started the process.
Yep.
And then he wanted to get out of the car on the way down there. And he says, Ma, you don't understand. They're just going to have me in a cell while they're waiting to bring him before the judge.
Yeah.
And he's going to be coming down off a drug. And he said I could die in that cell.
Right.
I just feel like that it's like being on a gray slab.
Yeah.
And that was his reason for not to go in.
Yeah.
Was he was afraid of the what do you call it? I always have a lapse of memory right here.
Yeah, of course.
But when he's coming off of it, what do you call it?
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody else does too.
Yep.
But it's a tough thing.
Yeah.
The pain, because you're in so much pain, all your joints and.
Right.
Right. I'll get it before the end of the
show.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, the sadness of that situation there, and other people when they wake up and whatever it is that you're going through it so much, you kind of get used to it. Mm-hmm. And it becomes a way of life. And that's the sad part about it. You actually think you aren't going to help yourself, and you can't because things are so bad. But that's the drugs and alcohol just pouring into you.
Right.
It's like a demon. I've watched many horror shows. I mean, how many people out there watch horror shows and seen people before they got, traumatized and afterwards. And they're pretty much good people before any of that stuff happens all the time.
Right.
Because I know many of people who've gotten sober, and they go into the workforce, and they go into counseling. They're the best working people. The best counselors, the best people, because they've been there.
That's right.
and they know how
I
it
think
is.
that's when a lot of people go into sobriety, is because they know that there are other people that have recovered.
Yep.
And that they're in that situation, instead of looking at a counselor and say, how do you know? You never been through this.
Right.
You know, so I think it's great that we have recovery coaches
Yep.
and also counselors that have been in that situation.
Oh yeah. Yep. I think that's huge.
Yeah,
Huge.
it is.
You know. So then, so when I came out of Beach Hill, I went right to AA. So I was up there. I went to NA. I went all over. Went to Ikipa International. As I held meetings. I was the Middlesex County Sheriff's Department and AA coordinator, you know, for the Sheriff's Department Middlesex for like 5 years. You know, I did South Boston commitments and all that stuff there. Hospitals, you know, Boston Medical, so put the AA meetings on over there. There's got different groups that do different aspects in jails, Concord, Lawrence, you know.
So you've been busy
Yeah,
trying to do intervention.
Yep.
I think that's wonderful.
yeah, yeah.
You do that. I think that when you're in recovery and you're doing intervention or working in departments that have everything to do with addiction,
Yep.
it helps you maintain your cleanliness, or what do you want?
yeah.
It's not cleanliness. What do we
Right.
call it? Your
Yeah.
recovery, your sobriety.
Yeah,
And I think that's a great thing.
thank you.
Cleanliness. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What a word to be using.
Right.
Look at that beautiful picture. That picture is from Prospect Hill?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
Yep.
beautiful, beautiful picture.
That
It's
is.
nice to see
That was taken from my friend Jeannie Callahan. She lives right up in the hill, and
We should talk about those pictures in the background.
yeah, and you see now I can't really.
And
See.
you should start moving a little bit.
Yeah.
And you had your parents and you had
I
your
had
family.
my picture of my mom, and then I had a picture of my father with my twins, who was actually, I got sober 2 weeks before they were born. My sister found out that she was having the twins on my birthday, and I was working at a pet center, and one of my first sober jobs, because I love pets. That's how I ended up with the 2 cockatiels and Heisman Macaw and all those birds. And I know families probably laughing in the background because I was telling people how clean they were in my house, and I had let some of them go because of that, how clean they were in my room as well. So, yeah, there was a picture of my sister with with my father with the twins. So going back to that, so she knew she was having twins on October 6th back in '88, and then I think it was, don't burn me if I'm wrong, but November 14th is when she had them. So it was 2 weeks before I got sober, as far as that there. So it was October 30th that I got sober back in '88. Because in April, I wasn't fully 100%. I had 5.5 months, was doing a lot, but also I was in denial on a lot of things because I just didn't think I had the alcohol problem. So, but I knew when I did the alcohol, it would lead me back to that drug street situations. But the glory of it all was somehow, again, I was in another state, and I somehow, the next night, I ended up in East Boston. I was at the airport group. People who have, oh yeah, I remember that word that you were looking for, binge.
Yeah.
Binge, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Detoxification.
Yeah,
Detoxification.
Yeah, detoxification. So it was on that binge. It was only on it for 24 hours, thank God. And because usually when people go on a binge, they end up in East Boston. They don't end up at a meeting. I mean, Maverick Station back then wasn't the friendliest and the best place to end up. But I did know about the East Boston Social Center, and there were people who were there with me, who knew where I needed to be, and they were on the other side of the bad side, you want to call it that, but still knew what my plan was and what my goal was, and put me into the East Boston Airport group, and there were people who knew me in there.
Right.
So,
So
then,
you really have to do it for yourself.
oh yeah,
A lot of times
no doubt,
people will do it for their parents, their
Yeah.
girlfriend,
right,
their grandparents, whatever what they're trying to do
yeah,
is for other people but themselves.
yeah,
And
oh
the
yeah,
only way that you really can help yourself is to want it.
to want it first, and you help yourself first, and that's coming down to what I didn't do for a long time, and that's love myself.
No, but the thing is, you were thinking about it.
Yeah,
You were seriously
Yeah.
thinking about it,
yeah,
and you had the right frame of mind.
yeah. Well, that was pretty grace of God, because I saw what I saw, and where I was, and how I felt. It was really, you know, I always say my grandmother was always with me, you know, as far as out there, you know. And I just knew when I sat where I sat, you know, in Central Park or Boston Common or wherever I was in Connecticut, and I used to take my rides and myself out of the equation, put myself where I wanted to be, in separate mode from everybody else.
To think about it.
Yeah. And sometimes I'd go on another binge, and sometimes but most of the time as time went on, you know, it was up, you know, the binges and the drinking and all the stuff. When I was by myself, came down, and then found myself saying, hey, you know, I asked for help with a few other people who were with me, and got the right people in the right equation and do what I needed to do.
So a lot of times now what they're doing is they're realizing that people are dual diagnosed with mental health issues.
Right,
And the thing is that, and it could be self-esteem too,
right,
but the mental health issues have to be taken care of before they can really take care of the addiction.
Yep.
And the thing is that there are lots and lots of facilities now that have it.
right. Dual
And they-
diagnosis,
you know,
exactly.
and the thing is that we're at a place now that we've brought a lot of different programs into this state to try to help people, because 80% of the country is affected by addiction.
Right,
And the thing is, you're never going to have enough,
right,
you know, and putting the
Ongoing
right
battle.
people in the right positions.
Yep.
And they're getting there. But it's all trial and error. You know, a lot of times they're bringing even exercise,
right.
okay? Because you need to do something with your extra time.
Oh yeah,
And we obviously, a lot of people have, like my son always had addictive behavior.
Yeah.
Whether you eat, whether watch TV too much, whether, you know, drinking or drugging, sex, job, workaholics. Yeah, a lot of people have addictive behaviors.
right.
So now you have to, what can we do to
Yeah.
help that along?
Right, to break it down.
Right. So I do have another son that's in recovery. He's been. I had 2 children, and both had addiction problems. Okay. My youngest son used to play football and play at Matinot, and I would tell them, "Your school is loaded with drugs. You really need to get in there." And, "Oh, not my school," is what I heard.
Yeah.
That's fine, you know. But I wasn't wearing blinders, and I knew that my son was having issues and wanted them to know, as well.
Yeah,
But now my son Patrick's been in recovery for 9 years.
awesome.
And then, unfortunately, I lost my Frankie 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But his addiction happened with an accident, and doctors at Mass General Hospital put him on OxyContin. And they were free to the doctors were free to give all this.
Sure.
You know, you said that yourself.
Yep.
You know, when they say to you, what's your pain level, 1 to
Yeah.
10, when did that come into play? In 1990s.
Yeah.
That's when that started.
That's like one of the worst questions.
Right, and then of course, because people don't want to be in pain. Oh, so it's a 7 or an 8, so that they can get something to help themselves.
Right,
But they don't need OxyContin,
right,
because OxyContin was made for people that were dying of cancer,
right, exactly.
to help them through the last months of their lives.
Yep.
You know, and then here we are giving a 21-year-old. But at the time, we didn't know. I didn't know. I mean,
Right.
it was 1995, I think, when my son had his motorcycle accident.
Oh, really, yeah.
You know, so he had an addiction for over 10 years. But he asked the nurse. It was Memorial Day weekend. I know this for a fact because we're having a party for Patrick. Patrick is born, you know, he was born on Memorial Day in 1980.
Okay, yeah.
You know, so it was that weekend that Frankie was riding a motorcycle and he got hit by a car
Okay, yeah.
and moving at 5 Corners. I know exactly where it was.
Yeah, I know 5 Corners.
You know,
Road.
and I told him a month before, do not buy a motorcycle because you're not going to pay attention and something's going to happen. And sure enough, a month later, I know I didn't jinx him, but,
Yeah.
you know, but I felt bad, you know, that he had to go through this. And the pain that you go in watching your children or even a sibling or anyone try to kick a habit of drugs.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad.
Yep.
So we have 15 more minutes. We've been talking for 45, and I hope I didn't talk too much because we still need to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know,
so,
and what kind of intervention and where you've been. And I know you did talk about Middlesex, but you also did do some other speaking engagements on addiction.
Yep. I've done it at my school. I've done it at halfway houses. I've done it at jails. You know, it's totally different when you do it at a jail because you know how they think they're all tough as nails.
Do you know how many people are in jails when it comes to addiction or drugs related?
As far as percentage-wise, I don't know.
Well, you know, it's funny.
I'm
going to tell you that in Somerville at the old neighborhood restaurant, I was there and met Joe Kennedy. And that was one of his questions. He says, how many of you know, how many are in jail for drugs? And I said about 75%. And he turned around and said 90.
I was going to say
90% of the people in jails are there for drug-related issues.
I would have said over 85, 90%, because I remember, everyone that I met, everyone I've talked to between Bill Rickett, Concord, Lawrence, and even the probation officers and the sergeants inside, all drugs.
Right.
Even the courts.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
All
drugs.
I did.
People don't even remember why they're there.
Right.
I mean, I had this person who I sponsored in Bill Ricker almost killed his brother with a dart. Doesn't remember doing it. Playing darts at a bar. Almost killed his brother at a blackout. As far as that there.
Have you ever had blackouts?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you could have blackouts from the liquor. And not know that you're still awake. You think, oh, I passed out, and you know that you really haven't.
Well, the crazy thing is, and to be honest here, is when you know you were in a gray out and you know you were in a blackout, it was like, oh, must have been great. Must have been a good time. Must have whatever.
And it's not always that way.
And that whatever is,
and he
didn't really want to be you. You didn't really want to be where you wanted to be, and you wanted to get as far away as you did, and that's how you talked, and that's how you behaved, and that's how you did it. We pretty much did everything to do, think, and say whatever we had to do to get away from who I actually was.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no clue who I was and then, So to jump to the reverse of that, to recovery, it's again, you set yourself up, and I know that I did a lot of footwork, and I know I put myself in better positions with people, going places. Whenever I was asked, and if there's anyone out in the audience getting sober or getting the thinking thoughts of wanting to get sober or addictive, if you get with a group, whoever the group is, I chose AA, there's NA, whoever it is, they ask you to go somewhere, they ask you to do things. If it's going to help you, and you're going to know that you're doing it, it's going to, put you where you want to be, and it's different, and you never done it before, or you never eaten it before, or however, do it. Just do it, because you never know how it's going to help you, and how it's going to make you feel, and how it's going to, do the long-term, short-term, and middle-term of your life, and where you're going to end up doing it.
I think it would be a good accomplishment. How you feel good about yourself every time you do something for someone else and you help them.
Yep.
So you're helping them out of a situation that you were in.
Yep. Definitely paying it forward pays off. I can't keep what I have after 31 years if I don't give it away. I do that in various ways, as far as that there, someone doesn't hold the door open for somebody, go over, you know, saying, as little as saying God bless you. I don't have anyone saying God bless you anymore to anybody.
No,
I don't know why.
I still
But-
do.
but-
God love you.
You know, it's the way I was born and raised. You know, is it the right thing or wrong thing? It's just, it makes me feel who I truly am.
You should
100%.
be able to express yourself that
Yeah.
way. So nobody should say that you can't do that.
Yep,
Well,
So-
we all have opinions, right?
right, exactly.
So you know what? It's how I feel is that we have to listen to each other.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And going back to that person who wants to try or wants to get silver tomorrow or even thinking of whatever now. Again, when I put my hands into my pockets and pick out that piece of lint, somehow I got the afterthought of saying, I never will truly 100% know who I am if I do not do this for myself. Imagine that. What I just said is huge, because if I don't give myself the chance 110%, I, not everybody else, I will never ever know who I truly, truly am 110%. And that's when I started thinking I may have a chance, because I knew for some reason that I'm a good person and that I'm worthy and that I can somehow do this step by step. And when you have that willingness and you have that little seed, it's pretty much all you need, you know, as far as that there, because I can definitely tell to you
That little
today.
seed made you grow.
Yeah. And everything, I mean, I woke up in Stowe, Vermont once, you know.
Well, he loves to travel.
Oh, yeah. They asked me to go up to a step weekend up in, well, they meaning, I was in a step meeting on Wednesday nights in this gentleman's kitchen. And of course, before I went there, my old stinking thinking was, I'm not going into anyone's kitchen. They're probably all into a cult, and they're probably all this, and I'm not going, you know. And I went, and it changed my life. You know, we went up to Stowe, Vermont, and I remember waking up. I literally, honestly, thought I was in the Grand Canyon, because I said I'd never been up to the mountains and never went up there because there was nothing going on where I needed to be up there. There was nothing before, but now Stowe, Vermont is a definitely huge part of my recovery. As far as up there, we had a friend of mine who owns the Stove Lake, and back then, a friend of mine, Wolfie, who owned Yodeler Inn. And God bless Peter Pickle. A lot of people know him out there. He owned the house on 50 Walnut Street. Is now a recovery house, as far as up there, which is great, you know. So, so I went off that spiel of knowing how I would never truly know myself 100%, and everything in between that was shown by my family, the love, you know, the spirituality of people, sharing what they shared with me, showing what they showed me. I'm truly grateful I can sit here and look into the camera, look at other people and say I truly 100% love myself. Yeah, that's my mom behind us in the picture. That's where it all started. And with her mother, which was my grandmother. You know, it's phenomenal. And today's my grandmother's birthday.
Oh, okay. Happy birthday.
As well, yes. Yep. I think she's Brian, I can hear my brother Brian. I think she would have been 112 years old today.
Yeah, but she still watches over you.
Oh, yeah.
My son does.
Yep.
My mom, my father.
She actually lived with us growing up, and she used to say to my mom, I used to know this afterwards, well, however I'd known at the time too, send me down the person upstairs with you who's causing the most trouble. I probably wasn't causing the most trouble, but I used to always run down before they got down because I always wanted to be down there with my grandmother and grandparents, you know. So I know all of that, a lot of that had to do with who I truly am as well too. Which brings me to one of my, well actually it is my favorite movie of all times, and that's The Lion King. The Circle of Life.
Yes.
Remember where you come from, going back, helping people of what you were and where you've been and how you did it, and present the same thing to them, knowing that they could do it too. Because like I said during the show here, we're pretty much all the same, you know. And I never, you know, bad things have happened through the 31 years. Lost both my parents, lost jobs, divorced through the years as well. But I can definitely sit here and tell you that I wouldn't change any of it, you know, because, you know, my kids, Jack, Maeve, and Caroline, phenomenal. Gifts from God, gifts from the universe, gifts from, you know, that I never even dreamt before. Because this is a kid who, from Somerville, didn't think he was going to live, didn't think he was going to have a doorknob to open, to own, never mind own a house, and, you know, and other things that I own today, you know, being in the stock market the way I am, you know.
Did you did you shut it off today?
I didn't do anything with it the past week, to be honest with you.
No, because they said they closed down the stock market.
Yeah, yeah. I know the coronavirus.
That's good, though. You
is,
made a lot of accomplishments in your time.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
stayed sober
Yep.
in sobriety for almost 31 years.
Yeah.
That's a great accomplishment
Yep.
in itself.
Yep. I want to say this too.
You have
Just
2
because-
minutes.
just
Tell them
because-
whatever you
yeah.
want.
Oh, just because someone's sober 10 years, 5 years, 31 years doesn't make them perfect.
No one's
Does
perfect.
not make them perfect. In fact, if you don't think of the spirituality, you don't remember where you come from, or have a grateful heart, or whoever keeps you from being what they call a dry drunk. Because being a dry drunk could be worse as if you were actually using, you know. So, because people aren't perfect and they make mistakes, but I wouldn't trade my life for anything. I'm the best now that I've ever been in my entire life.
Yeah,
As
once
far
we
as
get
out
older,
there.
older, we get a little bit.
Yeah, wiser.
Yeah, I think I've learned a lot in my 66 years.
Yeah.
First of all, women never tell their age, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Right.
Just retired February, so.
Okay. Yeah.
So now it's time to enjoy my life.
Right.
And
With that,
I'm thankful that I always say to everybody, nobody's perfect. So don't worry about anything that you feel badly about.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
we all make mistakes.
Yep.
You know, as long as you can get past that, you're
Right.
okay.
Right. Well, I'll end with, I want to just thank my family. As far as out there, my kids, Jack, Maeve, and Caroline. And,
How old are they?
Jack's 18 now, and Maeve is 16, and Caroline is 11.
Wow.
Yeah. As far as out
They're
there,
gonna
they
keep
live
you
in
busy.
Stoneham. As far as out there, and I am living in Somerville the past 3 years. As far as out there, and yeah, it's been really good. So
Well, thank you for being on the show.
thank you very much.
It's nice for you to tell your story.
Thank you.
And the thing is that you've accomplished a lot in that time.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
I only wish my son had that opportunity, but unfortunately, you know,
Well-
things happen. He didn't have the self-esteem. And a lot of times that's what happens to people. I'm sure the show is off by now.
Right.
But YouTube is still going.
Yeah.
But my Frankie was like that. The self-esteem was low. He loved people. He liked to help people, you know. And just recently, this past week, I have been getting phone calls from a paranoid schizophrenic. And he's been writing me, and he's been, oh my goodness, what we've been going through. So for the past 2 days, he's left me alone.
Yeah.
But the things that he was saying, that he was my son coming out of the grave, it was horrible. But you know what? You have to deal with it.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, maybe I can turn him around. Maybe I can, because he's at home.
Right.
You know, he's on his couch. But I think what he's doing is doing too much recreational marijuana.
Yeah.
And a lot of those, even those edibles.
Yeah, all that stuff out there, people justify, just like the vaping. They justify it, and people with the legal marijuana, they justify it, and people who weren't even involved with it before, they're growing it down in their basements, making money.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
of course they are. There's always
Out
going
of
to be someone
control.
in them wanting to make money and putting it out there.
There's no doubt it's out of control.
You know, because I was against the
Oh, me
marijuana
too.
being legal.
Right.
I mean, medical marijuana there's 28 different strains of medical marijuana.
Right.
And the thing is that I've had the green nurses come on and talk about how to use, how people could use the marijuana for their benefit
Yeah.
that would help them medically.
Yeah.
And not just to get high or to be totally as oblivious, because you can do that too,
Right.
with all these
Right.
different marijuanas out
Right.
there. And when they legalized it for recreational use, I was upset with the bill, not with because it's someone's recovery. If they're not abstinent to everything, there's Suboxone, there's methadone, there's all these different drugs to substitute for that opioid.
Right.
And I think that medical marijuana would be the best way to go instead
Right.
of using those drugs.
Oh, yeah. It's like anything else. I always said this keep it to the basics.
Right.
I'm taking an aspirin to help with my headache.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm taking an aspirin because I want to feel different than I should feel.
Yeah.
Without it, then there's a problem.
Right.
Simple. Same with the marijuana.
Right.
Medical people need it for cancer, and that's what they should use it for.
Right.
They're using it to get high or get out of the...
Sometimes they use
whatever then.
marijuana for people that have seizures.
Yeah, there's different
it's worked
types.
too.
Oh, yeah,
So,
there's
I mean,
different
there's reasons
anxiety,
for it.
people who have anxiety, people...
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's different the way they grow it in the study now.
Right. The reason why
Yeah.
I was against
Yeah.
it more or less was because you could grow 12 in each house.
Yeah,
You could only have 12 marijuana pots in one building, like 6 in each apartment, but only a total of 12.
Yeah,
I just thought that was kind of crazy, because
Yeah.
if people are growing it in their backyards, you're going to
Yeah.
smell it. I mean, one little, like I said, the bud
Yeah.
smells so badly. What's going to happen to your fresh air when you're walking down the street?
right, yeah.
You know,
Some
and
of
I'm
that
worried
fresh air
about
is
kids
gone
and
now.
edibles.
Right,
That's my biggest concern, because sometimes with the edibles, they don't know. They have them look like gummy bears.
right.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
they're cookies.
It's like
you
the
know,
vape.
and-
The vape was geared towards kids. That's
Oh, it
why kids
was,
are...
and that's why Maura Healy is suing
Yeah.
the company for that.
Yep.
And I've been going to her at the last couple of court cases. The first one was for the Sacklers wanted to have the 321-page document.
Oh, really? Yeah.
They wanted to have some of the stuff brought, taken out of there.
Yep.
And the judge said no. So that was good. And the second time, they wanted to more or less have a mistrial.
Yeah.
They wanted, and so far, everything is on hold for now.
Yeah.
But a lot of my parents and a lot of the mothers that lost their children had these posters standing out in front of the courthouse.
Yeah.
I actually was in the courtroom, and there were actually 6 lawyers there for
Really?
all the different people in Purdue Pharmaceutical.
Oh,
So I think that hopefully what they should do is get money for treatment.
okay.
Now that's what I'm looking for, and I don't want to hold you
Yeah. It's all right.
too much. Here it is.
Yeah.
It's 9:03,
Should I unclip this?
and I'm going to go and